Hey, it's Garrett,
It's Andrea.
and welcome to the Daily Devotional.
Yeah. This is a sensitive subject for me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. First off, one, I never thought that my math teacher from middle school would be attending our church. I love her. She is so great, so smart, hilarious. If you get to know her, she's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
We made kites in her classroom. It was so fun. But I made horrible grades in middle school. Okay. So much so that I would walk to my grandma's house from the school
Mm-hmm.
and my mom would pick me up. She had an old computer. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to just fix my life right now. Instead of like fixing my grades.
Instead of like studying or whatever.
Oh no, I studied.
Uh-huh.
But some people just struggle in math
Uh-huh.
and some other subjects.
Uh-huh.
I decided to apply myself in a different type of
Mm-hmm.
situation and use my grandmother's computer and printer. I conjured up this story that I had lost my report card because back then it was not an emailed report card like it is today. I feel so sorry for my kids. It wasn't an emailed report card like it is today. It was printed out, handed to you, and you had to have your parent's signature.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm really good at is what?
Your mom's signature.
I've had that thing down since the beginning of time.
Uh-huh.
I practiced it on my notebooks, all this stuff. So papers I didn't want my mom to get, I would sign for her.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mom. Anyways, so I get the report card. I sign it. I return it. I didn't want my parents knowing, thinking they wouldn't know that the quarter was over.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I lost it. I'll get another one. Walk to my grandma's house. I'm like, you know what? I can make this on her DOS program.
Mm-hmm.
So I sit there for like 2 days. I have a story. Oh, I forgot. Okay. But you better have it or you're in trouble when you get home. All right. Don't forget. I can understand this as a mom. I've told you, get your report card. I did not want her calling the school.
Mm-hmm.
So I sit down. I make the most beautiful report card you have ever seen. And I told her and my dad, listen, I had to go to the counselor's office to get a print off, and they have older printers. And I even put compliments on my report card, and I gave myself negative comments on my
So,
report card.
so you were like a pleasure to have in class, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And like needs to focus more or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I gave myself like one bad grade.
To make it more believable.
Yes. So I convinced my parents
Mm-hmm.
of like how I had progressed in my grades, knowing that they had actually gone the opposite way.
Uh-huh.
And I got $5 out of my dad. They were so proud of me. And I was so proud of myself.
And the crazy thing about this story is they didn't know this until we were married.
Right.
And you had told them like later on in life, they
Yeah.
thought you just had a great report card.
Right. And my mom saves papers. She had saved all my papers
That's
from
right.
like elementary all the way to high school.
Yeah.
And she had given them to me when we got married, and I found it.
I forgot about that.
That's when she found out that I had gone to grandma's house and printed off
That's such a good story.
yeah.
Oh,
Is it?
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's a great
Anyways.
story. So we are going to talk about math today, but a different kind. And so, like just some Bible math, like there's some cool numbers in Matthew chapter 18. It's the very last parable in there. And there was a man, and it was actually a parable. So it's a story. And Jesus tells a story about a man that was forgiven a debt that he couldn't pay. But he's using terms that maybe like he's not saying US dollars, but we've been able to kind of get an idea of how much that debt was. So in the parable, it could have been as little as a debt of $12 million. Some people say it could have been close to $1 billion debt. Whatever it translated to, we have the understanding that this debt was like a lifetime debt that couldn't be repaid. And so this man, that's what he owed. And he begged for mercy and he asked for repentance. And in the parable, the owner was able to say, I forgive you this debt, and he sent him on. And so what happened was the guy that was just forgiven, he goes to somebody that owes him, and it says he owed him like 100 days worth of wages. And so it was still, he owed him a lot, It was still a big debt, but nothing compared to the lifetime of wages. And so he goes to him and he puts his hands around his neck and he threatens him and to get his money back and demands to be repaid. And there was some other math in here, and I know I'm already, like some of you, I've already lost you with the numbers, like I already bored you to death. But there's some other numbers in here that Jesus talks about because the disciples had asked, they said, how many times should we forgive somebody? Should we do it 7 times? And they thought that was being generous, because most rabbis would teach to forgive someone 3 to 4 times and then you're done. And so they're like, well, what about 7 times? And Jesus said, no, not 7 times, but 70 times 7, so 490 times. And so does that mean, like, can you imagine, like, would you be able to keep count? Like,
I think
if
there are some people like I've wanted to keep count on.
okay. So like when it gets
Just kidding.
okay, it's like, okay, they've wronged me 489 times. They
You
got
got one
you
more.
got one more and then it's over. But I don't think that's not what Jesus meant. He was
No.
saying like an unlimited amount of times, and then that's when he told that parable, because he has forgiven us of
Mm.
so much,
Mm-hmm.
a lifetime worth of debt.
Yeah.
He has forgiven us, and so we are to turn to others that maybe there is somebody that does owe us,
Mm.
or someone that in our world, in our mind, wouldn't deserve our forgiveness. They owe that big debt. But the principle here is God has forgiven us so much. He's asking us to forgive others. In comparison, here's the number. In comparison, it was 1 in 600,000 compared to what the debt was that was forgiven originally. And so, in comparison, he wants us to be able to go and forgive others.
So, Mom and Dad, you have to forgive me for what I did.
Right?
If you're listening, you gotta forgive me.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
Thank you for the $5.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you at least have to forgive her at least 480 more times, probably.
That's wisdom right
Yeah,
there.
that's good
I'm
wisdom.
sure they have.
I'm sure they have to. All right. Well, that's good.